Welcome to the Wisdom That Breathes channel. Across all our platforms, we try to share wisdom which is relevant and accessible to everyone. But on this particular platform, we go deeper into some of the ancient principles found within the scriptures. If you find some of the terminology difficult or inaccessible, then go over to our Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll be able to find other content which is perhaps more relatable. Thank you and enjoy the wisdom that breathes.
Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So today we're reading from Canto number 3, chapter number 21, entitled Conversation Between Manu and Kardama. Today we're reading from text number 26 and 27, so we can recite them together. Sacheha Viprarajarshir Mahishya Satarupaya Ayasyati Didrukshush Tvam Parashvo Dharma Kovida. We'll just do the translation, we'll do the next one responsively. Translation: the day after tomorrow, O Brahmana, that celebrated emperor who is expert in religious activities will come here with his queen Satarup, wishing to see you. Text 27. Atmajam asita pangim Vayashila gunanvitam Mrigayantim patim dashyati Anurupayate prabho Atmajam ashita pangim Vayashila gunanvitam Mrigayantim patim dashyati Anurupayate prabho Atmajam ashita pangim Vayashila gunanvitam Mrigayantim patim dashyati Anurupayate prabho. Payate prabho. Ladies. Atmajam ashita pangim Vayashila gunanvitam Mrigayantim patim dashyati Anurupayate prabho Atmadam asita pangim Atmajam, his own daughter, Asita, black, Apangim, eyes, Vaya, grown-up age, Shila, with character, Guna, with good qualities, Anvitam, endowed, Mrigayantim, searching for, patim, a husband, dashyati, he will give, anurupaya, who are suitable, te, unto you, Prabho, my dear sir. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you, who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife. Purport. The selection of a good husband for a good girl was always entrusted to the parents. Here it is clearly stated that Manu and his wife were coming to see Kardama Muni to offer their daughter because the daughter was well qualified and the parents were searching out a similarly qualified man. This is the duty of parents. Girls are never thrown into the public street to search out their husband. For when girls are grown up and are searching after a boy, they forget to consider whether the boy they select is actually suitable for them. Out of the urge of sex desire, a girl may accept anyone. But if the husband is chosen by the parents, they consider who is to be selected and who is not. According to the Vedic system, therefore, the girl is given over to a suitable boy by the parents. She is never allowed to select her own husband independently. At the beginning of a Bhagavatam class, the speaker usually submits their disqualification. Today I feel especially impelled. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Just before I begin, what time do we usually end here? Is it 8:45 or 8:30? 8:30? 8:30. Okay. Then I'll speak for 5 minutes and open it up for questions. I just want to make sure I leave time for discussion because there could be many perspectives on this. Kardama Muni is one of the most interesting characters in the Bhagavatam because we see his whole life cycle. We see Kardama Muni as a brahmachari, a student, doing 10,000 years of penance. And then we see here that he is scouted by Svayam Bhagavan, who is looking for a husband for his daughter Devahuti. And Svayam Bhagavan is impressed. He's impressed by Kardama Muni. If someone can control their senses, if someone can control their mind, if they can engage in austerity, if they are fixed in their spiritual practice and they have good character, such a person can bring great benefit to someone's life. And therefore, he is feeling that his daughter, Kardama Muni, is the ideal candidate. And so we see they come, and eventually Devahuti and Kardama Muni get married. So we see Kardama as a grihastha, a householder. And then Kardama Muni marries Devahuti, but there's a contract. There's always a contract. And therefore he says, I'll marry you on the condition that once we have a son, I'll leave. And indeed the son is born, Kapila Dev. And then Kardama Muni leaves, retires, Vanaprastha. And then later on in the Bhagavatam we hear about how Kardama Muni completely absorbs himself and takes sannyas. So Kardama Muni is one of the unique characters of the Bhagavatam in whom we see the entire cycle of life. Here we're seeing the stage of his life where he gets married. And we're seeing how that marriage takes place. It is an arranged marriage. Once I was giving a class and someone said, Swamiji, do you believe in love marriages or arranged marriages? I said, we lovingly arrange marriages. That was a bit of British diplomacy there. Getting married is one of the biggest decisions in life. Perhaps the biggest decisions in life are what you're going to study. Maybe after that, what job you will do. Maybe after that, where you will live. But perhaps the biggest decision and the decision that is going to affect someone's quality of life in the biggest way, arguably, is who they get married to. It's a big decision. And here the point is being made that when making such a big decision, when making any decision, but particularly this decision which is so defining in one's life, then one should take the guidance of others. Oftentimes we make decisions on impulse. They say bad decisions are easy to make and hard to live with. And good decisions are hard to make, but easier to live with. And therefore we have a sense of sometimes acting on emotion, acting on impulse, acting on instinct. And while that doesn't have no value at all, it may have some value, but it's not enough. It needs to be tempered with other guidance. And so here Srila Prabhupada is making the point that arranged marriages are the way to go. Srila Prabhupada himself had an arranged marriage. He describes. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioned, he was married at the age of 12. Arranged marriage. And Srila Prabhupada also arranged the marriages of his disciples. I think so. Burijan Prabhu, he talks about that, no? Burijan Prabhu and Mother Jagatarini, they were preaching in Hong Kong. And I think he says in his memories that the first day we met each other was our wedding day. Prabhupada arranged it. And I think 50 years later, still married. Success story. It works. But some will say there are also cases where it didn't work. I think the first thing is whenever we see any item of culture like this, we have to understand the culture in the context of the goal. Like for example, if you go to a supermarket and you see someone in a spacesuit, it's kind of like, is this person okay? Like, why in the world? Because there's no connection between their dress and what they're doing there. But for example, if you go Cape Canaveral to the NASA space station and you see someone in a spacesuit, then it's like, yeah, of course, I'm at a space station, he's going to space. So when you look at an item of culture, if you don't connect it to the goal, then naturally to most people it's just going to look like strange. Like, you don't pick your own husband? But if the goal of life is not this life, if the goal of this life is something much deeper, much more profound, if the goal of having a relationship in this world is so that we can serve each other and ultimately awaken our spiritual consciousness, then the idea of having an arranged marriage starts to make more sense. If the goal is just enjoyment, if the goal is just this life, if the goal is just how much pleasure can be derived from, immediate pleasure can be derived from that relationship, then it may not make so much sense. So the first thing we do is we always understand culture in context of the process, which is in context of the goal. So in Krishna consciousness there's a goal, and for that we have a process, and in order to practice that process there's a certain culture and certain ways of living. And so arranged marriages and the idea of having someone guide us in the biggest decision of our life is part of a culture that will help us to practice the process more powerfully, which will then help us to achieve the goal. So, clearly in the world, a new paradigm is needed. Divorce rates are increasing, and it's actually in the world today, if you look at the 3 biggest trending topics that people are talking about in the world, they say the 3 biggest trending topics are: number 1, finding your purpose. This is a huge thing in the world now. The second thing is, how can I have better physical and mental health? This is the second trending topic. And the third trending topic is, how can I have better relationships? How can I find love? Everyone is asking. So therefore, if you look at all the influencers, all the social media, all the videos that generally go viral, they're generally connected to these 3 topics. So relationships, how we connect with someone deeply, this is on people's minds, because people are realizing that in the world we're more connected than ever before, in one sense. But in another sense, we're further and further apart. And therefore, people are not finding that loving connection, frustrated love. So, there is a case for another paradigm. Now, someone may say, but arranged marriages, is that really practical? Is that really something we can do? I mean, here, Srila Prabhupada is saying, she's never allowed to select her own husband independently. Purports like this, I think, are the greatest challenge and also the greatest potential for the Krishna consciousness movement. Because people are looking for another paradigm. People realize that the paradigm of materialistic approach doesn't work. So people are looking for an alternative. And for sure, we have an alternative here. So there's great potential, because what we have to share with the world is quite alternative, is quite counterintuitive to how people are living and approaching life. At the same time, it's a huge challenge, because the culture we live in is so different to this culture. So how do we bring that together? So I think when reading purports like this and when understanding any element of Vedic culture, what we have to do is just step back and understand what is the principle here. The principle here, let's just go away from marriage and ladies not having any independence to select their husband and all that. Let's just go away from that for a moment. The principle here is that when you want to make a decision, take guidance. In the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says in one line, Sajatiya snigdha mahatara sadhu sangaha. He said one should live their life like this. They should find someone in their life who is sajatiya, who understands them. Number one. Number two, snigdha. That person, hopefully, that you find doesn't just know you, but they have great love and kindness and affection and well wishes towards you. And not just that, number three, mahatara. They can give you ashraya. They have spiritual wisdom. They're advanced. They know and they have maturity. Sadhu sangaha. One should be guided in their life by such a person. The principle here is that perhaps the most valuable relationship you can have in your life is if there's someone in your life who knows you, who loves you, and who simultaneously has the spiritual advancement to guide you. If you have such a person in your life, you are the most fortunate person in your life, because that person can help you make decisions which perhaps you would not make by yourself, and those decisions can drive you towards your fullest potential and your highest happiness. So, Devahuti here has full faith in her parents. Her parents know her. They brought her up. They saw her, all her qualities. They fully understand her psychophysical disposition. Not just that, but naturally they love her. Snigdha. They have that affection. They have that kindness. And not just that, Svayam Bhagavan and Satarup are incredibly spiritually advanced. So they know Shastra. They know the principles of spiritual laws of the universe and human psychology. And therefore, Devahuti is ready to fully put herself in the hands of Svayambhuva Manu and Satarup. There's no force, there's no insistence, there's no coercion here. In fact, it's her desire that her parents pick her husband for her. And so, if we can create communities where these relationships naturally take place, then what can happen is there's a natural feeling of wanting to take shelter of someone who can guide us. When we hear this, it feels like sometimes we may read it and it feels very limiting, very, very conservative, very, very restrictive. But actually it's the complete opposite. It's done naturally, through love, through desire, and it actually brings the greatest freedom, because freedom means to enter into a relationship where we go beyond the physical and the mental, and we actually realize the spiritual, spiritually who we are, spiritually who God is, and in that way we can fully express and experience the deepest desires that we want to experience. And so here I would say, how do we take this into 2025? I think we have to understand that the principle is flawless. Everyone needs guidance. The principle is flawless. We need guidance which is like-minded, affectionate, and spiritually advanced. But we have to be realistic. Sometimes that kind of guidance is not available. It's not that someone is just a guru by default and you have to follow them without questioning. In the Bhagavatam, we find plenty of examples where authorities are rejected. The Bhagavatam tells us, Gurur na shashyat svajano na shashyat. What's the next line? Pita nasasya janani nasasya devam nachasya napatishcha shashan namocha yadya samupeta mrityum. The Bhagavatam 5th canto tells us there are natural gurus. The first guru is the spiritual master. Gurur nashashyat. But in the Bhagavatam we find Bali Maharaj rejects his guru, Sukracharya, as soon as the guru is seen to be unqualified. Svajano nashashyat, your relatives, especially your elders in your family, are considered gurus. But Vibhishan rejects his family. So, I won't follow Ravan. Pita nasasyaj, your father is a guru. But Prahlad rejects his father because he's not qualified. Janani nashashyan, your mother is a guru. But Bharat rejects his mother. Devam natashyan, the demigods can also be rejected if sometimes they are not teaching the highest thing. Patishcha Shashan, the husband, is a guru. But the gopis rejected. The wives of the Vedic Brahmanas did not follow. Therefore, it's not that these individuals are just gurus by default. The guru has to qualify themselves. And if the guru qualifies themselves, then taking shelter of them is the most beautiful and natural thing in the world. It's not restrictive, it's not coercive, it's not limiting in any way, it's the most beautiful thing. And so in a world today where we may not have perfect authorities, it may also not be so realistic to expect anyone to just follow without question. And so, perhaps the principle here is guidance, and the application in the world today is take guidance, but take as much guidance as you naturally feel related in terms of proportionate to your relationship. Do you have confidence that they know you? Do you have confidence that they love you? And do you have confidence that they have the spiritual advancement to guide you? Try to find someone who you have more and more confidence in. And if you do, then that person can help you make incredibly good decisions. Otherwise, we might find, as Prabhupada is saying, that we make decisions based on our own intelligence that end up backfiring. Hare Krishna. Alright, these were some thoughts. I didn't want to speak for the whole time because devotees may have comments or questions. Do you have any comments or questions? Alright. Yes. Is there a mic? Or okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Maharaj. Sorry, the feedback. I was reading in the Krishna book about, it's in the chapter where Krishna, Rukmini writes a letter to Krishna saying she wants
Krishna to kidnap,
Krishna.
yeah.
And Krishna kidnapped, she was about to get married and Krishna kidnapped her. And Prabhupada describes about different marriages in that
types
chapter.
of marriage.
And also maybe it only applies to Kshatriyas, but in the Mahabharata, the Pandavas were trying to win what's her name? Draupadi, and Arjuna shot an arrow through the fish.
Eye of the fish, yeah.
Yeah, but that's another way they got married back in those days.
Yeah,
so.
For sure, yeah. Thank you, very good, yeah.
Oh yeah, and Ravana kidnapped Sita, and apparently that's why Sita got banished. Oh no, when at the end of Ramayana, banished.
Yes. Oh, you mean, oh yeah, after she was rescued, then, yeah.
Yeah, because apparently they were spreading gossip about Lord Ram in the city.
Do you want to ask a question about that? Or it's just a comment you're making?
Yeah, the question was, it's saying this in this purport, but it's saying other things in different parts of the scriptures. It says other things as well.
Yeah.
But it's saying this in this particular.
Yeah. So here it's saying that the marriage should be arranged, but in other places in Vedic history and scripture, we find that marriages took place in other ways, and they also seem to be okay. Yeah, it's mentioned actually that, especially for those from a Kshatriya family, if the potential husband comes and by his chivalry is able to capture and kidnap the wife, then that's actually a great qualification. The parents are like, yeah, he's the one, because he's shown his character. So for Kshatriyas, because Kshatriya Dharma is protection and to be fearless and to fight, then that is considered, okay. So yes, there can also be other ways of getting married. Yes. Yes.
The previous purport in this chapter, Prabhupada was talking about how certain things are like the greatest blessings in one's life. One was a good wife, good chaste, Krishna conscious wife, and the other two, I can't remember what they were, but Prabhupada said of all those three things, the greatest blessing is to have a good chaste Krishna conscious wife. We see with Srila Prabhupada, he didn't want to marry, was her name Radharani? Or? He didn't want to marry her, he wanted to marry another girl. Yes. But his father said, Gaur Mahande said, no, I want you to marry this girl because in the long run it will be better for your spiritual life. So we see that even though she was a pious lady, she wasn't very Krishna conscious and she didn't support him in his preaching programs, and she sold his traded his Bhagavatams for tea biscuits. So in the long run, it seems like for Prabhupada it was a greater blessing to have a wife who was not Krishna conscious and not supporting him. Otherwise it may have been very difficult for him to leave the household life, right? So would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. I wouldn't feel confident to comment on Srila Prabhupada's life, but I could just say in general, I would say that Srila Prabhupada or a spiritually established person leaves family life not necessarily out of frustration, or not necessarily, that element may have been there, but really he left because he had a higher vision, a higher duty, a higher purpose to fulfill. And that was what was driving his renunciation more than anything. And perhaps this, on the other side, was simply a confirmation of that. In the same way, one can have a very happy marriage. One can have a very congenial relationship. And still one can embrace renunciation. Yes, it might be harder. But still one can embrace renunciation if through that relationship and that time in Grihastha ashram, they've also developed that spiritual desire to expand their spiritual goals in the final part of their life, and that may mean retirement and perhaps, complete absorption separate from a relationship. So I think the driving, renunciation can take place on different levels. Perhaps one level of renunciation is when we renounce out of frustration. Higher than that is when we renounce out of knowledge. But higher than that is when we renounce because we have something much more important to do in our life. And therefore, I think there's a difference between walking away from a relationship and running away from a relationship. When you run away from something, all your consciousness is absorbed in the thing you're running away from. But when you walk away from something with grace, then what your consciousness is focused on is the beautiful place that you're going to. And therefore I think Vanaprastha and Sannyas in the spiritual terms is like this. We leave because we're inspired that there are new frontiers to explore. Some thoughts? I'm concerned also here on the ladies' side if we want to have, yes.
Maharaj, when we're talking about walking away from a relationship, in this world, like in the generation that we're living in, it's very hard to have arranged marriage. Parents give up, relatives give up, and when you're not conscious, I think you make that impulsive decision to marry somebody without looking at the bigger picture. Now, when you enter into a marriage and then you find that the relationship is actually impeding your spiritual advancement, what's the step that should be taken?
All the hard questions today. So we'll see Srila Prabhupada say different things. Srila Prabhupada will uphold, he will say that divorce is not a part of Vedic culture. He'll make statements like that. But Srila Prabhupada was also incredibly progressive, and we have to only also see, along with what Srila Prabhupada writes, we have to see how he also acted in his life. And in certain situations where clearly it was becoming perhaps a regressive or a toxic relationship, I don't think Srila Prabhupada would force anyone to stay together simply on a tradition that divorce is not part of Vedic culture. So Srila Prabhupada did make this point very, very clear, that marriage and making those vows should not be taken lightly, and therefore making statements like divorce is not an option just helps us to understand the seriousness of the vow. So I think when we hear statements like that divorce is not allowed, I think the emphasis should be put on the fact that the vow is super important. It's instilling within us, that vows should be like lines in a stone, as Goswamis are described. However, we have to be practical. The scripture tells us, Smartavya satatam Vishnur, Vishmartavya najatu chit, Sarve vidi nisheda shur, Etayor eva kinkara. In the scriptures there are many vidis, there are many regulations given. Sarve vidi, but every single vidi is subservient to one principle. Always remember Krishna and never forget him. And therefore, we must remember that one way we can go off the track is niyam agraha, to neglect regulations. But another way we can go off the track is niyam agraha, which means to hold on to the regulation so fanatically that you lose the whole point of why it's there in the first place. And so, yes, marriage is not a light thing. It's, what did they say? 7 lifetimes? It's a big thing. But we have to see, case to case. That's what I could say.
Thank you, Maharaj. Isn't that also in the Vedic tradition? It wasn't just the external and superficial consideration. They also factored in
Astrology.
the strategy and astrology.
Astrology.
And also it was part of the culture that they went to the mother house or the father house, and so that the girl's been trained up from a very
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was not just like a random thing. Like Svayam Manu and Satarup are they're watching Kardama Muni for a long time from a distance. They're kind of understanding like what this person's about. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are done in the background. There's a lot of observing. There's a lot of looking at the culture. There's actually a story of so there was going to be an arranged marriage, and the boy and girl hadn't met each other. So the boy's parents, they came to the girl's parents. So they said, you know, like we've known each other for a long time. We've observed you and this and that. The boy and girl had not met. And so they came to the girl's parents. So the girl's parents were okay. And they said, let's go ahead. And then they spoke to the girl. And the girl said, I want to see him. So it sounds a bit heavy, but anyway, I'll say it. So basically, then the boy's parents said, it's off. Because if she doesn't have faith in you, then it means that there's some crack in the culture of your family. And therefore, we don't want to go ahead. In other words, faith is a very interesting thing. Like, faith thrives where there is purity. And therefore, the reason why we shy away from faith in the world is because faith has been abused so much. But actually, the growth of faith signifies that there must be purity. Natural faith arises where there is purity. And so anyway, that's it. So why am I saying this? Yeah, in this point is said that, yeah, there is a lot of background things going on. It's not just like, okay, you and you, okay, just do it and make it work. There's a lot of observation, astrology, and other things are done. But the point here is that it's all done, but not by the boy and the girl. Because it really is like that. In many, many marriages, the boy and the girl have never met. It's all done by the parents. Not randomly, with a lot of thinking, but it's all done by them. And that's the kind of paradigm shift. Like, can you put that much faith in someone? It's like, but it's actually an incredibly beautiful thing if you find someone. It's like natural, like when you see a baby run to the mother or the father and just take shelter. You don't see it as a weakness. It's beautiful. Like, it's beautiful that they just feel that complete security. And that's actually how this can also be seen. So, yeah, some thoughts, yeah.
Just a little comment, observation. Here at New Govardhan, we have a lot of very successful marriages amongst the community. And from what I have observed, two people will meet each other and they like each other, and then they get the blessings. They go to the blessings of the temple president and the elders of the community. So I feel that in a way that is also, it's arranged obviously by Radha Govardhan ultimately. And these two people will meet here, and then with the blessings of Ajita and other community members, they'll have a very successful marriage. I've seen many of those here. And so we're very lucky to have that. So that's one way of where the marriage is arranged by Krishna.
I mean, yeah, also like when this person asked me, do you believe in love marriages or arranged marriages? My answer to them was, do all love marriages have love in them? He said, some do, some don't. I said, do all arranged marriages have love in them? He said, some do, some don't. I said, so yes, one consideration is how two people come together, but perhaps the bigger consideration is what they do after they're together. Love is not chemistry, love is commitment. So if you're able to be committed, if you're able to actually, be strong in Krishna consciousness together, that's what's ultimately making the marriage work, not the fact that it was an arranged one or a loved one or this or that. It's really... But the point here is just that where there are blessings, where there's guidance, where someone outside of our own impulses is also tempering, because it's a very, as we know, a very emotionally charged thing, to kind of choose someone to spend the rest of your life with. So it's like there's so much going on within you. It's like so important to have someone like that.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. See, there's an underlying theme here of this idea of independence.
Yeah.
That ultimately, we want to make a choice here. You did mention, when there's an arranged marriage, that the girl does want to enter into a relationship based on the trust of her parents.
Yeah, yeah.
The man similarly is saying, I want to get married, so if you find someone suitable for me, I will enter into that in an arranged sense. And then in like a sense of two people finding each other, they make an independent choice to actually go out and find each other and find what's right for them. It seems that like underlying this, in this idea of independence, that independence is preferred more nowadays in our culture, where people should have, the view is we should have that independence to be able to choose, and if someone's coming in and being involved in interfering with that independence, that ultimately our natures or our true feelings in our heart, follow your heart, that is being interfered with here. So like, should the culture instead be trying to interfere with that independence? Should be saying you shouldn't really have independence, you just follow your elders, you should just follow what's right for you and be happy and you'll be fine. But that seems to be the issue, right? So, and it goes back to...
So you're saying modern culture is a culture in which it's promoted to follow your heart,
Correct.
follow, and should we as the Krishna consciousness movement be trying to change that?
Correct.
Should we or not? My sense, like I was saying, I think putting faith in someone is actually a natural part of human psychology. I think everyone wants that. I don't actually think people want to be independent in the deepest sense. But what's happened over time is that our faith has been damaged. Kali Yuga is like the place where faith is just annihilated. They say, because we put our faith in someone or we see all around us, people just abuse, exploit, take advantage. But I can see, like, even traveling around as a sannyasi, and it's like, who am I? I'm just like some guy, like trying my best, But I can see as I travel around how much people want to put their faith in someone. It's like, it's a natural part. We want to be protected. We are infinitesimal. We are under the protection of Krishna, ultimately. But we come to the world to be the enjoyer and the controller, and therefore this strong independent spirit comes. So for me, I don't think it's about a heaviness of telling everyone like, now you can't be independent, now you can't be free, you have to be. I think it's about creating communities where there is so much love and understanding and acceptance and non-enviousness in relationships that people just naturally come and say like, oh, can you help me? You know? That's what we want. That's real. That's what the Krishna consciousness movement is. And I think where we do that, you know, the whole world will be attracted. Because I think postmodernism and this kind of rugged individualism is just a response to a dissatisfaction of what's happened. That's my sense. Yeah. Philosophically, it also makes sense, right? Because yeah. So.
Thank you, sir.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I think in this today's world, everyone's becoming very selfish.
Yeah.
They all want to be served. But what scriptures teach us, there is more pleasure in serving than being served. I think that's what's missing. Everybody wants to be served, but nobody wants to serve. I think that there should be really a relationship in a sense that, you like somebody, obviously you communicate with them and all that, but then you got to see, have you got this link, have you got any kind of, interest in them and they've got some interest in you. And it's much simpler than trying to complicate it with other issues of life. It's just that, serving somebody is more pleasurable than being served. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it's, as I said, these purports are very interesting because it's a counterintuitive way of approaching, counterintuitive to modern world. Like in the modern world, they'll say you love someone and then you serve them. Whereas our concept is you serve someone and that awakens the love.
Sure.
Like I was at the manor, we have lots of weddings. That's another story. But I was driving past the wedding marquee one time, and so you could hear the priest on the loudspeaker, and he said, and in Vedic culture, you don't marry the one you love. Like, bang, I hit the brake, and I was like,
Really?
And then I stepped out, and then he said, you learn to love the one you marry. So that's also a Vedic kind of counterintuitive kind of like, you don't marry the one you love, you learn to love the one you marry. Now, what are we really saying there? Yesterday I was speaking in the yoga village, Krishna village, about Vedi, Bhava, and Prema.
Yeah.
Because that even makes sense, even within the awakening of Krishna Prema, that we don't have love. We do have love, but in another sense, it's covered. And therefore, what do? We serve. Vedi.
Yeah.
And then from that, Bhava rises. And from that, it matures into prema. So this idea that you serve and that awakens love is what we're basically... So then you begin to think, oh, you don't marry the one you love. You learn to love the one you marry. In other words, then all of the emphasis is put not on attraction, not on chemistry, not on immediate... what to say? Resonance. It's all the emphasis is put on what you do to show that after, and that's perhaps why so many relationships are in a problem. It's not that physical and emotional things are not important, but it's just that people put everything there, and then that's it, and then there's no substance.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Everything everyone said was wonderful, but at the end of the day, everything could be done quite right. You still need to learn how to depend on Krishna. So, I think we talk about emotional resilience, but in a devotee's life, it's like devotional resilience. If something goes wrong, learn to look at the Lord and say, you know, from previous millions of lives, I've done so many horrible things. So now, please engage me so I can get out of this material world. But this could be a 2-week seminar minimum. But yeah, teaching everyone, especially young people, serving each other for Krishna's pleasure, make everyone happy.
Thank you. Yes, no, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's a really important point that we talk about these things. And there's a system and there's a way of doing things, and even if you do everything according to this, it still may not work out how we planned it to work out. And sometimes we can feel there's something wrong with me, I made a mistake, I'm less, or whatever. In the ultimate sense, Krishna is a person, he's so kind, and along the journey, we're never going to live the perfect life. Perhaps somewhere along the line it's going to go a little bit off track, maybe we make a mistake, maybe something didn't go according to the storyline that we had planned. But in all of that, as you said, if we just keep surrendering to Krishna and realize that that doesn't disqualify me, that, yes, here we talk about marriage and the perfect society and the way of living and the stages of life, and maybe I may not fit into it all perfectly. At the end of it, Krishna will make it all perfect if I just surrender to him. So that's the highest principle. Therefore I said to always remember Krishna and never forget him. Everything else is a detail which is subservient only to that principle. And if you do everything perfectly but you don't remember Krishna, the operation was successful but the patient died. And in the other sense, even if you make a few mistakes along the way and it's not perfect according to Vedic Vidhi, it's all right, because Mahaprabhu is so kind, Karuna Avatara. He knows we have a little bit of imperfection. So Krishna is very kind. So yeah. So this should not be intimidating. This is inspiring, it's empowering, it's supportive. Take the principle, apply it in the world relevantly, with kindness, with compassion. And when all is said and done, always remember Krishna and never forget him. Back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. All right, maybe, are we done here? Or? Yeah, we have to go. So thank you so much. I'm glad I got out of this class alive. Thank you so much for your kindness. Wonderful to be at New Govardhan with all of you. It's an incredible community. It's your effect and what you're doing here is not just changing the lives of people here, it's changing the lives of people all over the world, because people come to New Govardhan, they become touched, and then they go in all the different parts of the world and spread that bhakti. So you're providing such empowerment to so many souls, and you're providing such an inspirational example of a community that Srila Prabhupada wanted. So thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.